to another episode of the Down the Road Show podcast, brought to you by our sponsors and friends at Nyte Studios, who makes all of our logos and amazing graphics, and they just started their shirt business. So if you need shirts for your startup company or a company that you'd like to get your branding out there, hit up darknightstudios.com, follow them on their social media, and tell them Down the Road Show says hi, because we just love them immensely. I'm extremely excited to talk to our next guest today, Greg Wilson. He is one of the owners and runners of Hempwood. I have been tagged in, numerous articles about this product because of my activism. Greg, it's a pleasure to have you on Down the Road Show. You were just telling me that, first of all, let's clear the record. You're not a smoker, so you're not a pothead like me and an activist. How did you get involved in the world of hemp and starting Hempwood?
Well, the story goes back a couple of decades, but I love the outdoors. So I'm a bow hunter. I live on a farm. I love the woods. I love hiking. I actually live on an organic farm less than 5 miles from the plant here. And the plant is on a 3,500 acre farm. So
Wow.
Outdoors and agriculture, that's my thing. I've been doing wood flooring and building materials engineering for, I guess, since about 2003. So it's been a little while. I was doing engineered oak flooring. And while I was in college back in the early 2000s is when China joined the World Trade Organization. So I figured when I was trying to get into college, and they said my reading and writing wasn't great, but my math was pretty good, hence getting into engineering. They asked me if I spoke a second language. And I'd kind of jerked around through Spanish and French and German classes growing up. And so I had to kind of say no, but I took that as a challenge to learn Chinese because I figured an engineer who could speak Chinese could do whatever he wanted to do 20 years ago. So that led me into flooring and to China to do bamboo flooring.
Wow.
So I started doing bamboo flooring in China in about 2006. Me and a group of people. I was not the founder of bamboo flooring, but I was one of the early guys that figured out the technical side of it and helped write some of the patents and help actually stabilize the industry. So you had vertical and horizontal bamboo, which was already out since the 90s. That's basically you take a piece of bamboo and you cut square pieces out of it and then you glue them together. But it was too soft for using in flooring for commercial applications. You remember the old bamboo flooring that used to get dings and dents and all that stuff in it?
Oh yeah,
especially from high heels. Yep. So I was one of the guys that came around, and there was a group of 17 of us that looked at it from a technical perspective of how to fix the problem of not being able to use bamboo flooring for commercial use. Some people were trying to impregnate it with adhesives or plastics. Some people were trying to compress it. And the end solution was we impregnated it and then compressed it.
Oh, best of both worlds.
So we made rectangular logs out of bamboo. So then that turned into, as we were figuring it out, we figured out it was all just math behind it. So it's all numbers. And it turned into a 4-page algorithm that I wrote, how you can transform a plant fiber into a wood composite. And that is what I've done ever since. That's led me into just about 20 years of just taking different plant fibers, putting them into this algorithm, which is what we call biomimicry. So you mimic the attributes of what you want your final product to be and how nature takes them there. So an old growth tropical hardwood that's 200 years old has a very high density. You're talking 800, 900 kilos per cubic meter. And your density equals your hardness, because a hardness test is where you actually just take a steel ball and you measure the amount of pressure it takes to make an indentation of 50% indentation with that steel ball, which just means how much of the density you're displacing with a certain amount of force. In addition, your density of your wood also determines the stability of the wood, because your humidity and your moistures move into the open cell structure of a softwood. That's why softwood is less stable.
Right.
The harder the wood, the stabler it is. The harder the wood, the higher the density.
Right.
So that just means you got to find that magic compression ratio and then take your raw materials. In this case, right now, it's hemp. It used to be bamboo, and then it was fast growing Eucalyptus grandis in the south of China. And then we did recycled woods in Tasmania and in Poland and in the Ukraine. Now we're doing hemp.
Wow. This is
So
what science and math get you, people.
that's all we do here. I have nothing to do with cannabis. I do not smoke. I do not partake. I'm not against it. I call it my industry partners. They've been good to us. We'll be good to them. But we're kind of the squeaky clean Midwestern flannel guys that make flooring. Personally, I'm not against it. It wouldn't allow me to be as productive as I would want to be. And that's why I don't really partake. I don't have a television just because the average American watches about 3 hours of TV a day. And so I figured I could gain an extra 21 hours a week over the next man just by not having a TV. So since I graduated college, I haven't had a TV. So it's all those different, you only have a finite amount of time in this world, and you got to dedicate it towards what you want to do. And for me, the relaxation time is going bow hunting or hiking in the woods or camping or fishing or doing those type of outdoor activities and trying to figure out what are the actual numbers in nature.
Mhm.
And so that's all this is literally we use the Fibonacci sequence, which is the name of the company. And if you'll see all the different projects and all the different things I've done through the years, you'll see little hidden numbers and little hidden symbols and little hidden things, which I find in nature. And then I just sprinkle them into the different projects. For
I love
instance,
that.
our phone number to the office here is 888-338-1235. All Fibonacci numbers. The logo in Hempwood, which I think I got one right here. You can see the little tree coming through it. That's a phi.
Yes, it is.
And so I take these little trees and plant them as symbols through the different things that I do, logos and trademarks and all of that. I mean, you can see we got, oh, sorry.
So you're just a good old nerd doing good.
So you see the logo right there with the trademark on it has a tree in it. That tree is a phi, which actually ties back to, I got a company in Tasmania that recycles woods that is called Smart Oak that has a phi in it. And then our bamboo's got a phi in it. And then the eucalyptus has a phi in it. And all the different samples that we send out are the golden ratio. And I mean, it's all numbers. Everything is numbers. Everybody speaks a different language, but they all count the same.
Yep, that's branding at its best right there. Even music can be quantitated down to numbers, however you want to utilize that information as well too. I love it. I'm really glad I hooked up with you guys. This is
I'm a strong believer in string theory, and I do believe that there are more elements to this universe than what you actually see and sense. And so when people say you're like putting out the vibe,
right,
that's something that we just haven't quite figured out.
Right.
Gravity is something
somewhere between magic and science.
Hey, magic is just science that hasn't been explained yet.
Exactly. Oh, I'm so glad I hit you up for this interview. I'm already having a blast. Okay, so now that you've figured out your sequence and the science behind compressing fibers, why turn to hemp? I mean, I know why, but I'd like to hear it from you.
So when doing a bunch of research on these in labs over the last 20 years, there are hundreds of different types of plant fibers that will fit into this process. You need to have long fibers that run that you're able to break open so you can impregnate them with something that will bond them together when you compress it, so you can make a more dense end product. The compression ratio is all the same for all the different products I do. It has a little bit different finished product or finished density because the original density is a little different. This one, the big science behind this project is not the hemp. Everyone gets all hyped up around the hemp, and that's how we sell it, but it's the glue.
Okay.
So we're borrowing the proteins from soybean, and we're impregnating the hemp fibers after we crack open the cell structure of it. We impregnate it and boost up the protein content, and then use an organic acid and some dish detergent in order to cross-link and bridge in between the hemp fibers. So the proteins are the bridge from fiber to fiber with the organic acid that really hooks into it when we compress it together and then bake it in an oven like a loaf of bread. And to
This is
take it
mind
one
blowing.
step farther, we're such kind of eco nerds that we even use as our release agent inside of the metal mold that we press it into. Instead of using oil, which you can just use hydraulic fluid and that's a good release agent, but we use canola oil, just like you're lubing up a pan to bake a loaf of bread in. We do that for the mold, so you can just pop open the mold and the hempwood drops out. So it's greasing it up essentially.
Wow.
So that's getting, why did we choose hemp?
Well, I assume it grows at a faster rate than most things, and it actually helps with the local economy, the soil. It recycles air better than every other plant around it. I mean, there's multiple reasons as a hemp lover I would choose, but in your words.
Absolutely. So it is the fastest growing material that we've been able to put into this process. Had done some samples in 2010 in Australia and in China, and we called it weedwood, and just didn't even touch it because it was illegal. It didn't matter to us, whatever. But it worked. And in 2014, when the first farm bill passed, I had a couple of my bamboo customers that called and said, "Hey, Greg, you're doing this thing called Timber Technologies. Tell us how hemp would work in it." And I said, "What's hemp?" They said, "Cannabis." I was like, "You mean weed?" And they said, no, it's a new thing. It's coming about. And so I started doing research on it for, there was a very large flooring company that wanted me to do some due diligence to see if it was something to follow. And they came back by saying they were publicly traded and were not allowed to go after something that was illegal on a federal level because they had SEC regulation. And my buddy, who was their purchasing agent, after they paid me my check for going in and studying it for a week and trying to teach them, he said, "Hey, entrepreneur," he's like, "you better go home and file a patent on it." And so I took the next 2 years to try to work out, and I built my basement into a laboratory and was welding together metal presses with car jacks in them and a bunch of craziness, mimicking what we had done with the bamboo, but doing it on the sly in my basement, and ended up coming out with what worked in general. I mean, it wasn't great because it was done in a basically 3 20-ton car jacks welded into a metal press in my basement.
Well, let me just stop you there, because Google, Apple, and all the great companies we know now today were all started in a garage. So
my wife used to get pissed because my wood shop also was where she did the laundry, and I would be in there sanding samples and throwing dust everywhere. And so the only day that I wasn't working wasn't at my day job working, was on Sunday. And so she couldn't do any laundry on Sunday. And then she had to basically dust the entire basement floor of our house every Monday and then do it all over again the following week. My roommate that I had in there before I got married, I had a roommate, and when my wife moved in, he moved to the basement. And then when I started doing this, he moved out. It just kind of grew like that. And
hey, I agree with your wife, but I would like to publicly thank her for her sacrifice.
Yeah, she's actually our office manager now, so she keeps all these idiots in line here, including myself.
Head idiot.
But when I say idiots, I'm just joking. I love my guys. I call them lumberjacks. So, but yeah, so now we partnered with Murray State University, and we developed the soy-based binders with Oregon State University. And so we were working in Kentucky and in Oregon, where hemp originally grew best. And Kentucky made it easier to set up here. So I moved from China to Kentucky.
Yeah, I love it. So not just not are you a local grown business, but you removed to be a local business.
Oh yeah. The federal government doesn't make it easy, but the local government does. So that's kind of the story of hemp. Kentucky wants ag tech. We're an ag tech business. the deal that I have with the university here is the younger generation, the average farmer is like 60 years old in the United States, something like that. The younger generation doesn't want to farm. There's not a bunch of money in it. You make 50 to 200 bucks an acre. That's not much money. You got to do 2,000 acres to be able to make it a sustainable practice. So the small farm doesn't really work. The hobby farm and all that. I live on 170 acres, and you can't sustain yourself on that. It's better for deer hunting and picking apples than it is for actually growing anything. It's actually an organic farm, but the guy who owns the land, he does 140 acres of it. And then right around the house, I got some cows and chickens and apples and pears, and we've got Takata mushrooms, and we've got some raspberries. The blueberries don't grow very well. It's kind of hot here for them, but we have some of those that don't turn out well. And we've got some great vineyards and stuff right around the house in that like 35 acres.
You're making me so hungry right now.
You can't make any money out of that type of stuff.
No.
But the younger generation is interested in hemp. It's getting the school here, which is one of the best ag schools, Murray State University in the United States. It's a regional state university.
Mm-hmm.
They are, they're always looking for the next specialty crop to come in.
Mm.
And Murray State, Dr. Brandon, who's the dean there, he was the first one to plant hemp legally in the United States since its prohibition. And so the deal with him is whenever the younger generation or people, like you see Tommy just walked in here, I met him when he was at the university. He was on the school farm. They have 5 school farms. And if someone's interested in hemp and it brings in a younger generation into getting interested in farming and ag tech, I always have to say, yes, come and take a look. Let me know what you think. Just check it out. So there's 4-H classes that come through here all the time.
Oh, cool.
We've got interns from the school out the wazoo. They actually brought us COVID a couple of months ago. It's all these different just kind of community things that make it work. So we get an intern from the university, from the engineering department, but that also means that his mentor or his professor at the school there is going to be kind of hands-on with helping us set up equipment. And then we've got Dr. Brandon, who's kind of our shepherd of Hempwood, who planted hemp first and does all these different trials and all that stuff. We've got 4 interns from the ag school that work here. In the summertime, even more when you got planting season and all that. And then we also have OSHA. The OSHA program from the school comes and helps us out here. So to keep us out of trouble, keep everybody safe. Mm-hmm. We also have the business school kind of helps and guides us through some of the problems and grants and all of that stuff that you see with the market. They had the media department there actually made our origin story. You can find on our YouTube channel. That's at Fibonacci is the name of the company. That's actually the name of our company. And it's the name of our YouTube channel. You can see that, what's his name? Chris, Chris, I call him, but one of the professors from the business school, he helps us with wrangling in or trying to wrangle in grants so we can put renewable energy into our plant.
And that's what a lot of people don't understand is like, I mean, even look, CBD is a huge growing market beyond cannabis itself and hemp. It's almost like 3 different categories that most people the general public doesn't realize, that I like to educate about. But what the general public also doesn't realize is how hard it is once you set up even getting legitimately licensed, whether it's a grower or a seller or in production like you do. That's just part of it. One of the hardest part about this industry is the banking and setting up bank accounts for any kind of business that is hemp, cannabis, or CBD related. I mean, what kind of pitfalls did you run through with that?
Well, funny you should bring that up. So we use a local bank here in order to be able to bank freely, and because it follows state regulation rather than federal. But the Congress came down here and they brought a couple of people to do a tour of our plant and then actually voted in the Fair Banking Act. the week
Oh,
after they came to visit for cannabis because they said they needed or wanted to see a hemp company that was making a product not ingested into the body. And we were the only one. So they came and did a tour on a freaking Sunday where I had to pay overtime to everybody. And then at the end of their tour, and they were visiting the university too, the school,
uh-huh.
they said, I heard him say, hey, Mr. Comer, who's our local congressman here, and he was the old ag secretary for the state of Kentucky, and he's the one that kind of shepherded in hemp. He said, hey, Mr. Comer, do we got the votes for it? And he said, I'll make sure we do. And they voted in the Fair Banking Act like literally a week later. So that happened here at the factory.
You're literally making history happen.
I don't know if I'd say that.
I
We
did.
stick away. You see what they're doing in DC today? I'll keep an arm's distance away from that.
I was just I'm trying not to bring that up.
I don't even know exactly what it is, but I know it's crazy.
Yeah, I'm supposed to be. I was supposed to be editing my docu-series all day. Couldn't concentrate on it, so literally threw coffee in me just to get up and ready for this because like I've been just glued to the television all day with just like the craziness. But yeah. Uh, okay, so you're an all organic product, and that was on purpose. Like, how good does that in today's?
Technically, we are not all organic.
Okay. Thank you for correcting me then, because in a world of social justice and organic and all of that, like, how close are you to an organic product?
The farm that I live on is organic, but not by my own doing. That's because the landlord does that, and he still pays the bills, and still we don't get to spray chemicals and stuff on the trees. But I can say that in order to be organic, you have to keep a whole bunch of certifications. You can't use a whole bunch of different stuff. You already can't spray hemp. No pesticides, no herbicides. So there's none of that junk in it. But you can't keep fields that have to be rotated with hemp to be organic because you're not going to grow corn or beans, your other rotational crops, every year because it has to be like 3 or 5 years that you keep the soil without any of that stuff. And so I don't know of a means of doing organic scaled hemp. Somebody who grows a plant inside of their house or in a greenhouse, maybe, but you can't grow hemp year and year in the same field. It doesn't grow right because you need to balance with putting different nutrients in and out. Hemp is a net positive to the soil. So very often people will grow corn one year, which draws a lot out, and then grow hemp the next year, which adds into it. Hemp grabs a whole lot out of the air and then throws it into the soil. So that by saying we're organic, I would say we are bio-based, yes. But to say that we're organic, that would be a lie. We don't have any certifications of that stuff. And I don't think you really can do it with hemp.
Right. Well, but at the same time, you're not making a product that's being smoked or ingested anyway. It's being compressed into wood for construction. So some of those loopholes were literally put into law to protect people like me who are going to buy it in bulk and make a bunch of brownies. So yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. The organic side of it is for something ingested in your body. Do we use safe practices for growing? Yeah. Do we use non-formaldehyde based glues? Do we use safe glues that don't hurt our people, that don't have VOCs, that don't make your kids retarded? Yes. So we're doing all of those things right, but organic's pretty much for food. I don't know anybody who has an organic oak floor.
And I'm glad you clarified. Now, happy employees make for a happy environment, make for a happy company. You seem like you got a good thing going on there. What is it about running a company like this, and how you want to treat your employees, because you got an amazing thing going on, especially with the working with the college, and you're utilizing people who are younger and who are interested in the field, and as it's growing, what kind of responsibilities do you take as a company helping mold them?
So we pay above the average rate here in town for our employees. If you work here full time, you can own your own single family home and your own vehicle. So when people talk about $15 an hour in New York City, that's what we do as our base pay here in Kentucky, where a single family home costs you 100 grand.
Yeah.
So being able to offer healthcare, we have two levels of healthcare. You've got the full healthcare. We pay half, they pay half. It costs a couple hundred, like $200 a piece. We pay 200, they pay 200, and that's your silver level. Or we also have what's called HealthWorks, and HealthWorks is actually a local like urgent care place where for $50 a month, and we split it with them, you got any sort of problems, you go in there and get it fixed. So there's a level of health care that you can get by working here that's $25 a month. And if you're making $15 an hour and can't afford $25 pre-tax a month, then you've got bigger problems.
Right.
So those are all there. We try to keep it happy and healthy. To be perfectly honest, it's not always. I mean, this is reality.
Yeah.
And so we do our best to do it. I've got somebody pissed off at me all the time for some reason, one reason or another. If there's 18, 20 people around, 5%, yeah, for sure. If one guy, but we try to do our best to keep everybody safe. This year, it sucks really bad with COVID and all that stuff happening, because you start up and you shut down, and you start up and you shut down, and it just gets crappy.
Yeah.
And so in getting into all of these just nasty things, we do our best to say, hey, if we do got to shut down at this time, then you can work to make up the time later. And so if anybody gets COVID and they got to go home for COVID, hey, you get paid. But I can't afford to pay everybody all the time if we're not working. And
Right.
so I say, well, if we're shutting down for 2, 3, 4 days, like this week, we had somebody who had COVID on Monday. We shut down Monday and Tuesday. And so I told the guys, I said, hey, look, we're off Monday, Tuesday, but if you want to come in Saturday, Sunday, we'll press blocks. And so it doesn't hinder to the best of our ability. That's all you can do. Because I mean, it's
work with the environment we're in.
Yeah, it's the best and worst time to start a business.
Well,
because you better be absolutely stellar to be able to pull it off. You better be on your P's and Q's.
right.
I don't know what the language that is allowed to be used on this thing, but now it's
whatever the
pretty
fuck you want to
there.
say, bro. Whatever it is.
Okay, so a third of the businesses have gone out this year in the United States. 30 are small businesses gone. A third of your small businesses are thriving. A third of them are surviving. We're in that surviving mode. It's fucked out there. And when I say that, it's because all of our main customers are commercial building. Commercial building, gone.
Yep.
Now, our industry friends that have dispensaries and have hemp shops and want to support the squeaky clean front man for the hemp industry are really supporting us and saying, hey, you know what? It is pretty cool to build out my dispensary in San Francisco. We just sold one yesterday. This guy's going to put 900 feet of bamboo flooring in there and a bamboo countertop and a couple of bamboo cabinets. Or sorry, not bamboo, sorry, hempwood. I was just getting in. He's putting in hempwood flooring and hempwood cabinets and all that. So like the industry is supporting us, and that's what it needs, because cannabis isn't supposed to be just for somebody smoking it.
No.
The reality is it needs to be building materials. It needs to be clothing. It needs to be animal food and human food, because hemp is only really going to take off if you can get the USDA to approve it for animal consumption. Because if you feed chickens, and they have studies here at the university for like 4 years now, if you feed chickens hemp seeds, their eggs are high in omegas and actually are considered a superfood. but it's illegal to do on a commercial basis because they haven't done the 5 or 10 years of FDA studies that are needed for food. And that's where hemp and cannabis and all that stuff is in the predicament, because it's so new. They don't have these human consumption tests, which it is right for them to take 5 or 10 years to figure it out, because you don't see all the problems in year 1 or 2.
Yeah.
But as soon as you can feed that stuff to your chickens, and then my wife, for instance, will go to Whole Foods and pay double to have a chicken egg that's high in omegas and is a superfood, that's when hemp works. That's when it actually happens. That's how this takes off, because we need somebody buying the top of the plant and using it for animal CBD, because they'll use the top of the plant for animal CBDs with the low CBD content, and they'll use the seeds for human consumption or for replanting. And if it ever comes about, 80-90% of those seeds is ended up going to get fed to animals, because that's the same amount of beans or corn that are fed to animals. Is 80-90%, something in there, is what actually goes to your chickens and goes to your hogs and goes to your cows and goes to all that. And that makes it a widespread product that could be 2, 3, 5. I doubt it'll ever be 10% of what's grown in the United States, but it'll be a single digit percentage of the agricultural field. And then it'll end up allowing us to be a single digit percentage of the wood field, or the hardwoods sold in the United States. And that's where we want to be. That's the impact we want. Instead of cutting down a white oak tree, which are the best ones to hang your tree stand on, because that's where the deer come in to eat the acorns, you can keep that oak tree up and use hempwood in your house, or use it in your dispensary. Or people are starting to make desks out of it. So like work from home desks during COVID, or we have these table kits you can get off of our website, where if you're kind of a garage carpenter and you're kind of sitting home trying to figure out what you want to do while the whole world's spinning backwards, it seems like, buy a table kit and put that thing together. Or get some flooring and decorate your house with it. And yeah, it's kind of expensive. Hardwood is expensive. So it's not going to work out for a cheap rental property that you're going to end up, they're going to trash your house and they're going to rip the floor out every 3 years or 5 years or whatever. But if you want to have something that doesn't have VOCs emitting into your house, where you don't feel bad having your kids kind of playing on the floor in your living room, use hempwood. It doesn't have any of that formaldehyde. It has that warm feeling you get from hardwoods. So that's where we pitch it to. And I get it. It's not for everybody, and not everybody can afford it, unless you look at it as, do you want to buy something once in your life, or do you want to buy vinyl flooring every 5 years of your life?
How lasting of a product is it?
Well, it is harder and more dense than hardwood, which indicates, and the accelerated aging tests show, that it does last longer than traditional hardwoods like your hickories and your oaks and things like that. And I know I grew up in a house that the hardwood was as old as my dad. And so that it should be something that, and we've only been around for a couple of years, but it should be something that 40 years from now, you can look down at the same floor. And our stuff being harder than your oaks and things like that, it doesn't ding and it doesn't dent and it doesn't have all those problems where you have to resand it. What you can do, and that gets real nasty because it's a little bit too soft a wood. What you can do is just screen it and recoat it. So if you use a Bona coating system that we do in the plant, and then you take that Bona coating system that's aftermarket, they work together. They marry up pretty well. So you can just, if it gets scratched up or it gets kind of dull looking, you refresh it instead of having to sand it down and get dust everywhere. That's the beauty of it, is it doesn't have what you have to do with hardwoods to maintain it.
Which keeps the overall costs down over time anyway.
Oh yeah, it's just like Tesla. Like when you got into electric vehicles, I really love making this comparison, because our flooring, it actually has a, let's see if I can grab a piece here. So here's a piece of hempwood flooring. and we put it on an FSC certified plywood base. And that uses the same glue technology that we use, which is called Pure Bond. It's soy glue. And if you put it on top of this, and then you don't have to worry about teaching people how to install a brand new product. You don't have to worry about saying you can't install it over concrete because it needs to go, hardwoods have to go on top of a wood subfloor. They can't go on top of concrete or the moisture from the concrete comes up through.
Oh, I didn't know
And
that.
so so you either have to seal the heck out of your concrete or you got to use an engineered platform. So we build it in the way that we do this. So this floor should be around for 40, 60, 80 years. I mean, I don't know about 100, but nobody's going to live to be 100, especially if you're going to buy your own floor and you own your own house.
Who even owns their own house these days?
So I don't know. That's
Well,
what
this
we're all
is-
about. We're
this
normal people.
This is amazing. Like, this is not what I was expecting to hear out of this company, quite frankly. Like, I love the look, we're run of the mill, wholesome, regular entrepreneur people. Like, I was expecting to find activists like me going, finally, it's our time. But no, you're just a good product with good timing. And I hope you have good success.
It is the made in America, eco-friendly alternative to hardwood. So it's beautiful, it outperforms, and you can buy it right here. So you can go to hempwood.com. You can give us a ring on that number I said before, or you can hit us up at sales@hempwood.com. Follow our Instagram, because what we try to do on Instagram and Facebook is we try to promote people that are buying hempwood and turning it into all these different items. And we'll feature those and give credit to the guys that are buying the hempwood and making duck calls, or they're making sculptures. Like today, with all this junk going on in DC, I just posted a picture on our Instagram of somebody who carved a cat out of hempwood and figured the world needs a little bit more of something like this than people storming the Capitol with guns. I mean, it needs to have that positivity. And we've got all these different artists and craftsmen that are building stuff. Like Tommy, the guy that you saw come in here earlier, his dad built the first hempwood table that I saw. And he came down when COVID was first kind of kicking off, and bought some hempwood and just built a table out of it. Then he came back and said, here's what you should do. This a little different, that a little different, this a little different. And then all of a sudden, Tommy's uncle, he installed the first unfinished hempwood floor. So it doesn't have a coating on it, like the raw floor, and then did the coating himself in the house. And so it's literally just all the people around us buying stuff, building it. And we're using social media as a platform to let everybody share how you do it, because we'll be the first to admit we don't really know what we're doing. We take hemp fibers, stick it in some glue, press it into a log, take that log and make some flooring and furniture. But growing hemp, if anyone tells you they're an expert, I would take that with a grain of salt. In making hemp building materials, if we're the only people doing it in the United States, at least that I'm aware of, and we say we don't completely know what we're doing.
There's a brick company out there. I got to hit them up next, but yeah.
Is that, is it just biofiber?
I got to do some more research on it. I'm not as.
There's a just biofiber out of Canada that are making bricks, but they're not concrete bricks. Those are insulation from the herd with lime on it. And then you put those inside of your stick framed wood walls instead of insulation.
Oh.
And so that is happening, but they're Canadians and they're sending it into the United States. There's our buddies, I think his name's Matt. Yeah, it's Matt out in Idaho that has Hempitecture.
Okay.
That probably knows more about hemp building materials than most in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
There's the guys out in Prineville, Oregon, and we're setting up a hempwood plant with them this year so we can have a Hempwood West out there.
Nice.
There's a group in Montana, I think it's called IND Hemp, that are starting to get some sort of industrial processing off the ground. I'm assuming they're probably froze out for the winter in Montana. But
Probably, yeah.
his name is Greg as well. They're pretty good people up there. And there's a couple of groups like Susquehanna Hemp up in Pennsylvania that are doing some good stuff with foods. There's a company called Victory Hemp. Chad is his name. And they're out of Lexington, I believe. And they're doing some pretty decent stuff with hemp seeds.
This is all great.
It's few and far between. I mean,
no, and it's not enough, and that's why I wanted to have you on here and promote your business, because we need more businesses like you doing what you do. Because that's the thing about hemp and cannabis; they're not the exact same plant. They're like they're like first cousins. They're almost alike, but it depends on how you utilize them and what you. But the whole plant is usable between building materials, between medicine, and between food. The entire plant, it's the most usable plant on the planet as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, we need more companies like Hempwood out there.
It happens if people want our product and buy our product. So if anyone is listening to this and is building a dispensary or wants to build a home desk or looking for some new durable flooring in their house, look us up. It ain't hard to find us on the internet.
Nope. And just follow the links here in this audio podcast and on the YouTube for this video podcast. Thank you for everyone who tuned in. Thank you for all the likes, for the subscribers, for the comments, even for those that hate me and my podcast, you still listen to it anyway. Thank you, Greg and Hempwood. It's just been an absolute pleasure talking to you and learning more about your company and your product and how you got started. And I wish you nothing but more success than Apple and Google combined. That's what I want for you guys.
Oh, we ain't into all that stuff, but thank you. Hey, thanks for having us. Look forward to talking to you again.
Yeah, my absolute pleasure. And we'll see you somewhere down the road.